Greetings, everybody. This is Tyler. Welcome back to the channel. It's been a minute. I've taken a little break here over the holidays, which was necessary to take a breather and just kind of step away and reflect for a little while. But today, real quick, I'm just going to show you guys something that I found recently about Martyrs Mirror. Now, this is a book, the Martyrs Mirror. Real quick here, just a quick description. Martyrs Mirror, full title, The Bloody Theater of Martyrs Mirror of the Defenseless Christians, is a massive historical and theological chronicle published in 1660 by Philemon J. von Braght, a Dutch Mennonite. Interesting number there, in 1660, the two sixes. That could be neither here nor there, but it is considered the most significant book in the Anabaptist tradition next to the Bible, and is still common household item and wedding gift in Amish and Mennonite communities today. Okay, and it's going to go through a few things, kind of like the purpose of the book and stuff. And it encapsulates the martyrs, like what true believers have gone through in the past. Now, I don't know if I believe every single one of these accounts, but what I wanted to show you guys is what the internet search regarding Satan's little season in this book compared to what the book actually says. Now, I own the book. Now, I got mine off, I think, Amazon or eBay, so it's a recent print. But what I want to share with you guys is that what you'll find on the internet, if you just Google this, it is going to be different than what the actual book reads. Again, this is just the book that I have. This could be a reprint, so this will just be up for you guys to decide. But it is interesting what the internet comes back and says here. So real quick, we'll go into this. In Martyrs Mirror, formerly titled The Bloody Theater, the discussion regarding the 1,000-year reign of Christ and Satan's little season is primarily found in the introduction and opening chapters of the first book, where Van Braght sets the historical and theological stage for the accounts of the martyrs. Okay, again, this is what the internet says about the book. This is not what I found in the book. Van Braght uses this eschatological framework to explain why persecution occurred in waves throughout history. Where to find it? And this is why I asked, where can I find this in my book, in the copy that I have? Well, I haven't been able to locate this, but this is what the internet says, and this is very interesting. In the introduction, the preface, Van Braght discusses the binding of the dragon, Satan, in the context of the early church's growth and the subsequent loosing of Satan, which led to the great persecutions. Which, now, I can see that. I can follow that line of thinking. Like when Satan was loosed and the millennial reign was over and Christ and the saints receded to their land or to the holy city, however you want to look at that. It's a whole other discussion. I could see a great persecution starting to come about. And we even see this in our hidden history. Again, and that can go into a whole nother 2-3 hour line of thinking. And I want to keep this video relatively short and just show you what the internet said about this book. The first century accounts in the very beginning of the first book, when detailing the life of Christ and the apostles, he references Revelation 20 to explain the spiritual era in which the martyrs lived. So talking about the 1,000-year reign of Christ. The transition from the 10th to the 11th century, a significant portion of the book's chronological narrative focuses on the year AD 1000. Now, this would make sense if Jesus returned in 70 AD, and then sometime after that, I don't know if it's immediately in 70 AD that the 1,000-year reign starts. There could be a gap where the other events of Revelation are taking place. I know, and we all know, that our God is a God of numbers, and he loves sevens. He just loves sevens. 7 is the number of completion. So I do believe 70 AD as the return of Christ, which coincides with the abomination of desolation, the temple. And then maybe another 7 years took place. And so 77 AD possibly is when the millennial reign started. But of course, that is just a theory. But interesting here that it focuses on the year AD 1000. So let's say it's 1077 when or 1070, around that time when Satan is loosed and the millennial reign is over. Following a common medieval Anabaptist interpretation, he suggests that the 1,000 years of relative restraint for the church ended around this time, ushering in Satan's little season, which to me, again, that makes sense chronologically. A period of intense deception and the rise of the papal antichrist. Again, that makes a good amount of sense, that around the time that the Catholic Church usurped the millennial reign of the saints, and Satan and his minions were allowed to operate via the papacy and all the things that they did leading into the Reformation. Makes sense, right? The key concepts of the book, the Martyrs Mirror worldview, these terms are defined as follows. The 1,000-year reign, von Braght often views as not a future utopia, but as a historical period frequently cited at the time between the early church Constantine and the turn of the millennium. Well, the Constantine, now that kind of contradicts the start of the millennial reign in 77 AD. That's neither here nor there, during which the dragon was somewhat restrained, allowing the gospel to spread even if under trial. Satan's little season, this is identified as the era of the great falling away. Van Braght argues that after the 1,000 years expired around AD 1000 to 1100, again, that makes sense to me, Satan was loosed and to deceive the nations more than ever. So, like, we are living most definitely in one of the greatest periods of persecution and deception. Just an absolute... If you're a Christian and you know and you understand that we're living in Satan's little season right now, then it's no wonder really that we are living in the most difficult time to be a believer, and that can't even be understated, really. It was loose to deceive this nation more than ever. He links this specifically to the rise of the Roman Catholic dominance, the Inquisition, and the bloody persecution of true believers, Anabaptists, and spiritual ancestors like the Waldensians. Again, that makes sense. Like, the way the story is inverted, and that we're told that there's the Dark Ages, and then the Reformation happened, and it was due to the Protestants against the Catholics, and the Catholics taking over. It makes sense. Okay. Notable quote reference, you will find von Braght stating that after 1,000 years, Satan was loosed from his prison and went out to deceive the nations which are on the four quarters of the earth, to gather them together into battle. He uses this to justify why the later centuries, 12 to 1600s, were so much bloodier for the defenseless Christians than the middle period of church history. In the 1950 Herald Press edition of Martyrs Mirror, which I have, but it's printed recently because I got it off freaking Amazon, Thielman von Braght discusses the 1,000-year reign and Satan's little season as historical framework rather than future prophecy. He used these concepts to explain why the church experienced a period of relative peace followed by extreme violence of the Middle Ages and the Reformation. The most detailed discussion of this occurs in the first part of the book, specifically as he transitions between the 10th and 11th centuries. So again, I've been scouring through this book. I can't find it anywhere in my edition. So key locations in the book, again, I didn't find this. The author's introduction, around pages 30 to 40, von Braght outlines his theological view of history, citing Revelation 20 to explain that the true church has always existed, but was hidden or persecuted during different seasons of the dragon's power. The 10th century, ending around page 250, this section marks the conclusion of what he considers the 1,000 years, the conclusion of what he considers the 1,000-year, the millennial reign, and the binding of Satan. The 11th century started around page 255. Here he explicitly discussed the loosening of Satan, the loosen of Satan. He argues that around the year AD 1000, or let's say 1070 or so, the 1,000 years expired and Satan was let loose to deceive the nations. how he connects this to the Waldensians. Von Braght uses the little season to explain the rise of the Waldensians and the defenseless groups. His logic follows this timeline: the 1,000 years, a period of relative restraint where the dragon, Satan, could not fully prevent the spread of the gospel or organize a global persecution. It's an interesting take on the millennial reign. AD 1000, the loosing. Von Braght identifies the turn of the millennium as the point of when the Roman Catholic Church, which he identifies as the papal antichrist, gains supreme power. Satan's little season, he characterizes the period from AD 1000 to his own time of 1660 as this little season. He argues during this time, Satan used the state church system to wage war against the saints, specifically the Waldensians, Albigenses, and eventually the Anabaptists. I don't believe that part applies to us today, obviously, but take it with a grain of salt, because this is coming from our own internet research. This is not found in the book. Maybe all this stuff is found in the original print, and they of course, just like everything else, all these books that get hidden and get swept under the rug and are possibly in the Vatican archives, the 50 miles long of shelves of books that we don't have privy to. Maybe this is bits and pieces of truth strewn in with deception. Like, obviously, I mean, take this with a grain of salt. I just wanted to share this with you guys, because if you go down this rabbit hole, and then you go and you want to purchase this book, I think it's like $30 or $40. It's like over 1,000 pages, a big book. Nice to have in the collection, but I wasn't able to find what the internet told me I was going to find in this book. So note on page numbers in the standard 1950 Herald Press edition, which I'm supposedly supposed to have, which is a reprint of the 1886 Elkhart edition. Well, 1886, the Elkhart edition, maybe that's when this stuff was washed out, because it says that it was originally printed in 1660 or written in 1660. So, not sure. You will find the specific discussion of the transition of the binding to the loosing of Satan on page 255. Well, no, I didn't. I went from page 240 to 270. I couldn't find anything. And this is also confirmed in my Telegram chat. I just recently posted this in my Telegram chat, and someone else also said that, hey, what I found on the internet does not match what the physical book says. So this could be the part of Satan's deception, is washing out this information, which we know that for Satan's little season to have full effect, that the amount of information, the amount of deception is 99.9%. It's like we literally live in the age of complete and total utter deception. Even if you don't believe that we're in Satan's little season, I hope and I pray that you have enough discernment to realize that we are living in a time of complete lies, with just top to bottom everything that we are told and taught and some of us believe is false, just flat out false. In the Martyrs Mirror, the articles of faith and transition from the 1,000-year reign to Satan's little season are central to how Thielemann von Braght validates the Waldensians as the true spiritual ancestors of the Anabaptists. Okay, so the shift to the 11th century, according to von Braght, the Waldensians were not the new sect that appeared in the 1100s, but rather a continuation of the apostolic church that became more visible exactly when Satan's little season began. The shift in the 11th century, von Braght identifies as the year AD 1000 as a critical turning point in his view. Now, that year, the 1070 to what we know, and to the loosening, I mean, it does make sense, but the amount of timeline deception that has taken place, and thanks to people like Fomenko and the other guy, I know you guys will help me add that we've got massive amounts of timeline deception. which sounds like up to 700 years added to our calendar, which we are not in the year 2026 right now. More like 1070, 400, like 14, according to the AD, or the year of the Lord. I don't like to use AD, but the year of the Lord calendar, which is the loosening of the Satan's little season. Starting in the 11th century, he argues that the Roman Catholic Church achieved such dominance that it began to deceive the nations through false doctrines and the use of the sword, persecution. Okay, now forget about the time, forget about the chronology of the years. Now, essentially, what's being said here does make a lot of sense, as far as there being 1,000 years of Christ on earth and then Satan being released. And the time frame of Satan being released and the shift of the world, it does make sense that in the somewhere happening in what we know as the 1500s. Now, this here is copied and pasted word for word. This is taken from my friend Andy Tartaria Biblical Research channel. He's on YouTube. I think if you guys know me, you probably know what my friend Andy and his work. The guy is brilliant. He's doing brilliant work. This is taken directly from his timeline deception video. I know him personally, so it's okay that I did this. I love you, brother. But I will leave the description of his video in the link description, so you guys can click on that. It's very, very informative. But it makes sense of Satan's little season beginning around this era. And the reasons Andy states here make a lot of sense. With the birth of science, by 1660, the Royal Society had been founded, and by 1687, Newton published the Principia Mathematica, and what emerged was a new priesthood of reason, claiming authority over what could be known or believed. This new institution replaced the testimony of Scripture and the witness of the saints with mathematical authority and experiment. Basically, an alternate system of truth to the pattern fits of truth. The pattern fits the release of the deceiver, the substitution of divine revelation with human speculation. Heliocentrism. It's when we started inverting God's creation into some sort of random ball of water that falls through nothingness, that came from nothing, that's going nowhere. Only a few decades later came the writings of Copernicus, 1543, and Galileo, 1610, and their revolution. Their revolution did not merely change astronomy, it quite literally inverted the very way mankind saw creation. The heavens, once understood as the ordered throne of God above a fixed earth, was recast as infinite empty space. It was a metaphysical reversal and spiritual inversion that mirrored the chronological one. Money and the power to record history. At the same time, entirely new systems of the finance arose. The Bank of Amsterdam, 1609, and the Dutch VOC created the first international corporations, entities with the power to print, trade, and write history on behalf of empires. Whoever controls the flow of money controls the flow of memory. And it is through these institutions that the new world order, Satan's little season, of that era began to shape the historical record we inherited. The redefinition of spirits, now this one hit me hard. The spiritual world was medicalized. Let's say that again. The spiritual world was medicalized. Amen. Yes, it was. And the knowledge of the demons and deliverance nearly vanished. As little season progressed, the unseen realm was explained away, and the material world was crowned as the only reality, paving the way for Big Pharma to have become what it is today. Now, this one hit me hard because I know a little bit about the spiritual world being medicalized. If you know Dr. Jerry Marzinski and his work with schizophrenia, and I don't know, some people here may have experience with schizophrenia. I know that I was recently, a couple years ago, I worked in a children's care facility. I'm a carpenter, so I was doing work there. And at this children's care facility, there was a few kids who had some mental debilitations, schizophrenia and whatnot and stuff. And I don't know if you've ever heard the attacks that these kids, or that these people, like I've heard adults too, when they scream and yell, it sure does sound like demon possession. I mean, I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a psychologist, but it takes you back when these people have their episodes of screaming and yelling and kicking and fighting and stuff. It really, really does feel like that is a spiritual condition. And beyond that, like the spiritual condition that possibly could be heavily medicated and just getting all messed up. Oh, my heart goes out to these people. I pray for them. And God bless them. God bless them and their families. But this all makes sense with this mid-1500s to 1700s timeline. The networks of the elite during the same period, the Jesuit order, became the most powerful educational and diplomatic body in Europe, while Freemasonry formed as Grand Lodges in the 1600s and 1700s. These networks served as the channels through which new ideologies and calendars were normalized, creating a unified narrative of history under the guise of enlightenment and fraternity. The rise of measurement and uniformity. When the world adapted new standardized measures and the metric system, it was anything but progress. But instead, it was more like a declaration of independence from the Creator's design. It's powerful stuff, Andy. By numbering and weighing creation apart from its maker, man rewrote the language of order itself. The earth became a grid of control, and the time was captured within a counterfeit rhythm, the false clock of this little season. Remapping of the world. As colonial powers expanded, they collected artifacts, redrew maps, and built the first museums. History was literally cataloged under new rulers. Entire civilizations were renamed, and relics from the Millennial Kingdom were redated to fit the new chronology. Through these acts, the true memory of the old world, the kingdom that was buried beneath the Enlightenment's curated past. A fall of the sacred architecture. At the same time, sacred geometry and symbolic design gave way to functional construction. The cathedrals and the star forts in the kingdom era were replaced by structures built for commerce and industry. Energy shifted from aether and resonance to coal and steam. It was more of a change in architecture or technology. It was more than a change in architecture and technology. It was the visible decline of the world once ordered by divine harmony. The Age of Reason. Philosophers began to exalt human reason as the highest authority, and faith and revelation were treated as superstition. By the 1700s, the church was no longer the steward of time. Science and the state took its place. And just as Revelation foretold, the nations entered a season of deception, forgetting the 1,000 years had just passed under Christ's rule. Again, thank you to Andy at Tartaria Biblical Research Channel. I'll post his link. This comes from his video. So I'm just getting that out there, guys. It's totally up to you to process your own thought on this. Take it with a grain of salt, as everything that we need to do besides the words of Jesus in this time of deception, in Satan's little season, or whatever. I don't like to usually say little season anymore, but the time that Satan was loose to deceive all the nations. There's bits and pieces of truth that the Father has left for us, so that we can rise above the deception and start to make sense of this kind of stuff, or at least somewhat sense of it, and have faith and walk by our faith and not by sight. It makes sense. So a lot of this you can't find in the book that you purchase off Amazon but this is what the internet says. This is what Google told me, right? So take that for what it is. Like, is Google finding the bits and pieces of real information and giving it to you? Or is it just making all that up? I mean, I have a very hard time believing that Google would make something up in favor of you believing that we are in the little season, rather than the information came from the actual book itself, and the reprints that we have now don't contain the real information. I don't know. I've again, take it for what it is. Another reason. Oh, okay. It has to download. I'm doing this all on my phone, guys. I'm sitting here on a job site in my truck on lunch break, and I'm just making this video real quick. And there was a period here recently where I went through my own kind of mental trials of considering, like, what the heck am I doing? I really had to examine myself, and I had to do a lot of prayer as far as to wanting to be a YouTuber. I really wasn't sure if this was something that God wanted me to do, because it's not for money. I'll never make money on my YouTube enough to support my family. And in fact, I don't ever really want to make biblical study and following God any kind of monetary, put myself into any kind of monetary position around that situation, because I mean that to me could be detrimental to my actions, as I never want to create something that's motivated by money. I only want to create and share through the Holy Spirit, and that's the only way I'll continue doing these videos. And after quite a while of soul searching and praying, I do believe that the content is appreciated, and I do believe that this is what God wants me to do. So I'm going to keep doing it, even though I don't have professionalism, I don't have the editing skills, I don't have many things that that other YouTubers have, and God bless them. God can use so many different people and different aspects of people's talents to get the truth out there, and it's just amazing. God bless. But why I clicked on this, the 770, this will be a whole nother video that I'm going to do soon. I really like to do these studies, and I put these studies together over periods of time, and then I try to make sense of them, and then I try to maybe make videos out of them, and that's what's going to come down the pipeline. Is I'm going to do more interviews, more lives, and focus on studies, and write up these presentations and share them, and hopefully that helps, because there's again, after soul searching, like, that's the only reason I want to do any of this. Because I had to really look inside myself and say, like, is this all for vanity? Do I just like the attention? Or do I get a pat on the back with views and stuff? And, the answer I can honestly tell you is no. Because my inclination most of the time is to post and run and get the heck out of Dodge. Because I'm not... a lot of this stuff does not come from pride. And I say a lot, not everything, because I have definitely made mistakes. And I've gone ahead of Jesus before and said things that I shouldn't have. But I leave everything up. I leave everything that I do up on the channel, even if I disagree with it myself, or if I realize there's a mistake in it, because it's the truth. It's my truth of where I came from, and I like to be held accountable. I like reading the comments. I like getting emails. Some of the stuff I don't agree with, and some of it just doesn't pan out. But I really like the accountability. I don't like being out here on my own and trying to like do this on my own and then teach. That is not my goal. My goal is to have a community. And that's, if you look at my other videos and stuff, I hope that's obvious. But the whole 7 and 70, why 70 AD, possibly 77 AD, why I truly believe that stuff is this here. The amount that God likes the number 7. The 7 is it's a number of completion. And again, I'll do a whole video here on the sevens, but you can see here how obvious it is how much God puts emphasis on the number 7 and completion of his work. So it makes sense to me that from the time that Jesus is born, he's crucified in 33 AD, and he tells that he will return to that generation, that it'll be about a period of 40 years, which is a biblical generation, essentially, give or take. And then he returns in 70 AD. So 70 years from the birth of Christ to his return makes sense to me. And when you really break it down and look at the number 770 and 777, you'll see that there's probably a good amount of credibility to that line of thinking. Just like here, just real quick here, Daniel 70 weeks, 69 weeks, ends with the crucifixion of Jesus Christ in 33 AD. Then there's a 33-year gap of time prophecy before the 70th week begins. This is Daniel 70 weeks. This is the period of the Acts and Apostles. The 33 years plus 7 years of Daniel's 70th week make up the final 40th year time period of trial and judgment before the end of the world for that generation. Daniel's 70th week is then kicked off with a covenant made by the prince with the Jewish people in 66 AD. Intense Christian persecution ensues the next 3.5 years between 66 and 70 AD. The prince then breaks the covenant with the Jews at the midpoint, 1260 days of the 7 years, and surrounds Jerusalem with his eyes on the temple, the abomination, the desolation. The temple is destroyed, and the abomination of desolation is set up 30 days later, 1290 days. This occurs in 70 AD. Afterwards, the sixth seal is broken, and the second coming of Jesus Christ, 1,335 days. This is when the first resurrection and rapture occurs. I don't know if I agree with the rapture part, but general sense, because we weren't there, so we're just piecing together some of this here. But I think this does make some good sense, and at least it's good to ponder on. Next, the trumpet of judges begins soon afterwards. During the second half of the 7-year prophecy, the two witnesses minister and carry out these judgments. During this time, the prince continues his reign during this last 3.5 years of prophecy. The 7-year prophecy ends with the destruction of Jerusalem in 73 AD. The vial judgments then begin and continue from 73 to 76 AD, the 2300-day period. Prophecy begins with the abomination of desolation 70 AD and ends over 6 years later with the ultimate fall of Rome and the judgment of the world in 76 AD. All the trumpet and vial judgments occur during this 2300-day period. Afterwards, the 1,000-year, seeing right there, the ending in 76 AD. Again, I full on believe the Father loves his sevens, so I do believe that this may have started in 77 AD, his millennial reign, 77 AD. Afterwards, the 1,000-year reign of Christ begins, which is prophesied in Revelation 20. After that ends in roughly 1077 AD, Satan is loosed out of his prison to deceive the nations. Again, the numbers of our chronology, when we say like 2026, what the year we're in now, don't pay attention to that. But yet the numerology of the sevens, I think, is very important, and essentially it makes a good amount of sense when you Google and search Martyrs Mirrors and you get this response, and not in the book that I have, but on the internet, that Satan was released in the year or the century 1000, around 1070, around 1077. This write-up goes on to talk about more sevens. I'll probably do a whole video just on the sevens eventually here. But yeah, so take it for a grain of salt, research it, pray on it. All this stuff here I've been writing up for years. It's taken me a few years, 2-3 years to compile all this stuff. Eventually, my goal is to continue with Bible studies and focus Bible studies. And that's why I write these up. That's why I compile these. Hopefully I'll start making, or hopefully I'll get the time to actually make more videos and get these out. Lord willing. But that's what you're seeing all here. And there's already been a few videos that I've done that are based off these studies, and we'll keep it going. I'm looking forward to doing more of this. I'm looking forward to being a part of this community, and I'm looking forward to serving God. You can hear the raindrops on the truck of the roof there. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I don't know. It's raining pretty good here in Washington State, but that's it for now. That's it for the moment. I just wanted to share that with you guys of what I found on Martyrs Mirror. There you go. All right. So again, this is what the internet says about Martyrs Mirror and Satan's Little Season. It does not match up with the book that you can purchase from Amazon. Just heads up, fair warning. Yeah, there you go. All right, much love, you guys. God bless you. God bless you immensely. We will talk soon, Lord willing. Take care.